The title of the message today is something. I've got to find my notes. I think I ought to know that. How to comply with the command to consider. How to comply with the command to consider. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to actually know how to do it. But before we go there, we'll just have some fun practical thing that we'll do. Think about this. In your mind, think. What do you do every day that is where you place your hope? In what is your hope that helps you get through your every single day? Because I'm not talking about that spiritual hope that you talk about when you go to church on Sunday. I'm talking about the hope that gets you through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Where does your mind go that is hopeful? Because without hope, you're hopeless. I mean, literally. A Christian is not hopeless. We're supposed to have some kind of a hope that you can count on. You can pull it out anytime you need hope in your day. What is it that you use? Think about it. Find two places in your Bible. Look at Romans 12. Romans 12 and 1 Thessalonians 5. Romans 12 and 1 Thessalonians 5. He says in Romans 12, you know what Romans 12 is all about. He says there in the beginning of the chapter, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercy of God, that you present your body a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service, and be not conformed to this world, but be transformed. So he's going to talk about being transformed. And in this whole thing, Romans chapter 12. Look down at verse 12. He begins by saying what you ought to be, what you shouldn't be, the gifts that are given. Not everybody's got the same. Everybody does have this, though. Verse 12. Rejoicing in hope. Okay. He said a Christian should be doing this. Rejoicing in hope. We've got some kind of a hope that we can rejoice in that gets us through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those days. That gets us through these problems that show up. There's a hope a Christian's got the world doesn't have, and we can rejoice in it. Now, that's not just a momentary, periodic thing that happens. No, that's something you can rejoice in at any moment. 1 Thessalonians 5. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 16. If you don't know that hope, you cannot obey this verse. 1 Thessalonians 5, 16. Rejoice evermore. Forever you should be rejoicing. How can you rejoice? Well, he said in Romans 12:12, you rejoice in hope. If you don't know your hope, you won't rejoice. So find between you and God, figure it out. What is the hope that gets you through this life? We're not talking about some pie in the sky that you think of a long ways away. I'm talking about what is the hope he's given you to get you through your day. And then you can rejoice in that when life says, I'm not going to let you rejoice. Because that's what the devil does. He knows we're supposed to be rejoicing. So you know what he does? I'm not going to make it possible for you to be happy about anything. Yeah. But lo and behold, we've got the answer. He can't dictate to us what we do. Okay, that has nothing to do with the message. I just want to throw it out there. Okay, we'll go to our message. Our message, the text is going to be found in Isaiah chapter 1. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 3. Isaiah 1:3. The command to consider appears in your Bible in 97 verses. That's a whole lot of Bible to say consider. And of those 97 times, it appears in 27 different books. That's the same number of books as is in your New Testament. A constant reinforcement of God's rules is plain to see if a man will consider what a man sees and hears. If you'll consider, you'll think about it, then you'll understand the things God likes. He doesn't like the things He requires. And He tells us to consider. We're supposed to. Isaiah 1, verse 3. But the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know. My people doth not consider. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. This is a basic element to all humanity they should be able to do. A baby considers everything. Very curious. Wants to delve in, figure it all out. Verse 4. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Why should you be stricken any more? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, the whole heart faint. God says, matter of fact, I've come to the conclusion it doesn't do me any good to punish you anymore because you're not learning from it. You should get real scared if you're in sin and you're not getting in trouble. Maybe God's given up on punishing you. That means there's a big one coming right at the end. Ouch. Your sin will correct you. You better hope God does before sin itself does. Here he says the way they could have kept themselves out of that trap was to consider. There's many things we're supposed to consider. We'll look at today not the things you consider. You can find those. But we'll look at how you consider. How's a person supposed to do this? First thing we'll see is consider collaterally. I know that's a big word. Collateral means that we're equal. There's a give and take. There's a group effort here. Exodus chapter 33, verse 13. Exodus 33:13. He says this. Now therefore I pray thee, if I have found grace in thy sight, show me now thy way, that I may know thee, that I may find grace in thy sight, and consider that this nation is thy people. Okay, we're supposed to consider. Here Moses is talking to God. He's telling God, consider these people are yours like your children. And literally they were. So look at this nation as your sons and daughters. Therefore, this nation as your sons and daughters should reflect you. And we should too. Are you a son of God? Sure. If you've been born again, you are. Well, you should reflect Him. And because of that, God will treat you differently than He does the heathen. So we should think collaterally. Consider collaterally. Not only that, look at Deuteronomy 4. Deuteronomy 4, verse 39. Deuteronomy 4:39. He says, know therefore this day. So I'm going to let it go that maybe you didn't know it before. But from this day on, buddy, you better know it. That's what he's saying. Know therefore this day, and consider it in thine heart, that the Lord, He is God in heaven above and upon the earth beneath. There is none else. Now, that's a fact. There is no other God. There's a bunch of fakers out there that pretend to be God, but there is only one. Now, our God is bigger than this world's gods they put up, because our God's God in eternity and in the nasty now and now, not only in heaven but in earth as well. So that should tell you something. In your heart, you're to consider this God and consider it as motivation for your actions now. Why? Because He's the supreme judge, both in eternity and now. He's not waiting till you get out on the other side to judge you. He's God in earth as well. He'll judge you here. He says in Deuteronomy 8, verse 5. Deuteronomy 8, verse 5. It says, thou shalt also consider in thine heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so the Lord thy God chasteneth thee. Okay, you're in the family. Great, you're a special little group. You got the fraternity going on. However, that comes with some responsibility. He says here, God's going to chasten his children. Moses said, remember, we're your children. That comes with some benefits. But it also comes with the fact that he's going to treat you like a child. He wants you to reflect the right family. So that's one way we should consider in the Bible. We should consider collaterally. Not only that, we should consider completely. Completely. In Leviticus chapter 13, verse 13. We should consider completely. Leviticus 13:13. Then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean. Okay, so here he's saying you're to consider completely. So you've been looking at one spot of leprosy. Now he says, consider the entire person. Study all the flesh on him, because you need to find out if he's clean or unclean. Compare one area to the rest of the man. Same with us. You found sin in your life, compare it to the rest of the areas in your life. Look out, it probably infected more than you think. You get one spot clean, see if there's another spot you can clean up too. Keep going. Do it completely, entirely. Don't stop with, this'll be enough. Keep cleaning. In Deuteronomy 32, verse 28. Deuteronomy 32:28. We're to consider completely. That means totally. Not just one little spot, not just Sunday, not just Wednesday night, not just when you're with church friends. Completely. It should take over. Deuteronomy 32:28. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. Now, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to consider completely. As we see things, as we understand things, when you read the Bible, consider it. Consider its end result. Consider the decision you're about to make. Consider its end result. Consider it compared to what you know of what God has said. Consider. Now he says there, that's how you get wisdom, verse 29. Oh, that they were wise. That's how you get understanding. Oh, that they understood, that they would consider their latter end. We've got a bunch of people running around living for today. What makes me happy right now? Without considering the end. Every decision, every path you get on leads somewhere. Consider completely. Receive instructions as though you're charting a course to a destination, because you are. Ezekiel chapter 18. Ezekiel 18, verse 28. Ezekiel 18:28. He says, because he considereth and turneth away from all his transgressions that he hath committed, ye shall surely live. Or he shall surely live. He shall not die. Yet saith the house of Israel. After just giving them that positive message, here's what Israel says. Yet the house of Israel, yet saith the house of Israel, the way of the Lord is not equal. That's not fair. O house of Israel, are not my ways equal? Are not your ways unequal? That's what humanity has always done. We'll make our own rules. God can't tell us what to do. The Bible doesn't know what it's talking about. We'll decide who marries who. We'll decide, our own set of rules. You don't understand fair, God's saying right here, until you've seen it from my side. God says, I'm totally equal. It's you that's unequal. We're in balance. Now, you'll find that in your own life. Because you'll find at one point, we just talked to somebody, at one point you thought this was the level of morality. Then 5 years from now, you'll have broken what you thought was moral. Whoa. Who's equal and who's unequal? You can't even stay equal with what you think. You better follow God. Man doesn't know fair, doesn't know unfair. God's fair. He said, I'm going to show you what's equal. Just follow it. Not only that, we should consider God's contingency. Consider God's contingency. 1 Samuel 12. 1 Samuel 12, verse 24. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart. For consider how great things he hath done for you. That's a good deal right there. He's done some great things for you. He has. If you can't figure that one out, you got bigger problems than what we can cover this morning. He says, consider how great things he's done for you. That's a good thing to do that. Consider the power of God as motivation for what? Look at the beginning of the verse. Fear the Lord. Now wait a minute, we just shifted gears on you. How is it that great things are going to make you fear him? Great meaning size. Not necessarily a pat on the back. You've received both some great blessings and some great punishments from God. He's balanced. You should consider that. That should make you do two things. Fear him and serve him. The blessings many times make you want to serve him. The punishment many times makes you want to fear him. God says you need both of those. And I'm a great God. I deliver great on both sides of it. In Romans 11:20, you don't have to turn there. I'm just going to tell you what it says. In Romans 11:22, Paul talks about the goodness and severity of God. He's balanced. He gives great on both sides, both punishment and blessings. In Psalms 50, verse 22, this is Chris's verse. He says, now consider this, ye that fear God. There's something that a man's supposed to do. He's supposed to fear God. But just fearing God isn't enough. You still have to get in the consider mode. So we need to learn how to consider. Look at Job chapter 37. Job 37. Many people will say, and all of us in here will say, we consider God because we fear him and we know him and all. No, you don't. Don't lie to yourself. The last time you sinned, you weren't remembering God. You forgot him. The last time I sinned, because I wasn't holding God to the position he should be held in my mind. So we forget him quite regularly. We don't need to. Job chapter 37, verse 10. By the breath of God, frost is given, and the breath of the waters is straightened. That is ice. Also by watering, he watereth the thick cloud. He scattereth his bright cloud, and it is turned around about by his counsel. Tornado, hurricane. That they may do whatsoever he commandeth them upon the face of the world in the earth. He causeth it to come, whether for correction or for his land for mercy. He hearkeneth unto this, hearken unto this, O Job, stand still and consider the wondrous works of God. When the hurricane comes to one man, it's supposed to be a blessing. To the other man, it's supposed to be punishment. And that man will know by considering, because God will speak to him when he starts considering. Therefore, in life, it's very important that we consider. View it from all angles with God in the mix. Don't do it in man's power. That doesn't equal anything. But ask God why whatever's happening is happening. And then consider all options and let God talk to you. Because sometimes it happens as a blessing. Sometimes it happens as a punishment. He'll tell you which it is. In Proverbs 24, Proverbs 24, verse 12. He says, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not. Isn't that the mass majority of People who claim to be Christians. They want to be ignorant. They're proud of their ignorance. They say, when I get to heaven, I'm just going to plead ignorant. I don't know all that theological, that Bible stuff. That's the preacher's job. No, that's a Christian's job. So, ignorance is not going to help you at the judgment. These people are going to say, we knew it not. Doth not he that pondereth the hearts consider? God considers too. Ouch. No wonder we better learn to do it, because God's going to be doing it. And he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it? And shall he not render to every man according to his works? Now, the reason we need to consider is this, because God's already considering. And based on his determination after he considers is how he rewards. As a kid, I would do this. I would think, okay, I want to get this out of my parents. I want to be able to go fishing today. How can I ask that in a way that would make them want to send me fishing? Sure would be nice to have some fresh brim around here, wouldn't it? Whatever it is. Okay, I'm considering how it's going to come out. Your life is the same way. God's considering too, and he's the judge. You better consider ahead of time. What action is he going to think when I do this? Is he going to think extra blessing or extra punishment? The Lord does consider. And not only that, he renders to every man according to their works. In Proverbs 21, verse 11, we're considering God's contingency plan. Man's not just down here on his own. And God doesn't force a man to do anything. It'd be nice if he just made us be automatically, once you got saved, holy. But that's up to you. He doesn't force you to. But if you won't do it, he's got some things that will encourage you to. Proverbs 21, verse 11. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise. And when the wise is instructed, he receiveth knowledge. The righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, but God overthroweth the wicked for their wickedness. If you're wise, you'll look at wicked people and see the things God's doing to them and take note. And then it's not so you can point your finger and tell everybody, ha ha, look what God did to them. No, it's so you can look at it as a inspection stick. Come back to your house. Is any of that stuff in my house? How am I doing? Is God going to take my house out next? Proverbs 24, verse 30. Proverbs 24:30. There's too many considers in the Bible for us to consider them all, but I'm just going to cover a few of them. Proverbs 24, verse 30. I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns and nettles, and covered the face. Nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Now, there's no excuse for a Christian to not understand how God works. You should be able to see it all around you. If you'll slow down and consider it, that's meditating, that's thinking deeply, that's getting God in on it. Explain this to me. What's that really mean? What are you trying to tell me by the thing I just saw? Okay, consider it. Then you'll get some instruction. Then you can be wise. That's where wisdom comes from. It's where understanding comes from. He says in Isaiah 44:19. Here's what happens a lot of times. He says, and none considereth in his heart. Neither, did I tell you where I am? Isaiah 44:19. And none considereth in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burnt part of it in the fire. What? Yea, also, I have broken bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh, and eaten it. And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? He feedeth on ashes. A deceived heart hath turned him aside, that he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, is there not a lie in my right hand? Okay, he says none of these people are considering. You know what that makes them? Makes them a bunch of fools. You know what they were doing? They were running out in the woods and saying, it's time to get firewood, boys. Give me a cord of firewood. And while you're doing it, bring back some that we can make an idol out of. What? You mean the same stuff that keeps us warm and cooks our meals we fall down to and worship as though it were God? He says, you're stupid because you hadn't learned to consider. Use your little brain. If you're burning some of it, it can't be so big a God that it can help you. It couldn't stop you from putting it in the fire. Right, or chopping it down. So that's what happens. If we don't consider, we become really stupid. One more consider, and then we'll finish this up tonight. 1 Samuel 25. I say consider your clique. Everybody's got a clique. That's just the way humans are. We're social animals. And we have certain personalities we click with, and some we don't. So you'll gravitate towards certain type of people. Consider your clique. In 1 Samuel 25, verse 17, he says, now therefore know and consider what thou wilt do, for evil is determined against our master and against all his household. For he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready dressed and 5 measures of parched corn and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs and laid them on asses. Wow, she had quite a pantry. She must have already had that stuff ready. This is Nabal and Abigail. Nabal is just a mean fella. He's vindictive. And he's done David wrong here. And word gets back to his wife, Abigail. David is coming to town, and it's not for a happy visit. He's going to kill everybody now. Okay, consider your clique. Who you palling around with? You know what the Bible says? A companion of fools shall be destroyed. God's already told us he's going to destroy this earth. Who are you companions with? I didn't say you were a fool, but are you a companion of a fool? Because a companion of a fool gets destroyed right alongside the fool. Be careful. Watch your clique. Abigail runs to David and says, hey, I want you to know that I will do you good. I'm not your enemy. You better butter up the right side of the bread. It's important. Alliance should be with God and his army, not with his enemies. His enemies won't be around long. That's a fact. Now, Christians need to make their friends God's army. And not only that, you'll be like the people you're around. Do you want to pal around with loser Christians? I know that's a contradiction of terms, but Christians who are not headed toward holiness? Carnal Christians, yeah. If you want to do that, that's just telling off on you. Go find you some that are sold out, that are dedicated, because that'll help you become dedicated yourself, more so. Okay, we'll finish this up tonight. I don't have time to finish all of them, and we'll never cover all of them, but I'll cover a lot of ground on these. Consider your clique. All right, tonight we'll finish that up, and you can go through it and see what you find on your own.